Lovely. Got it.
So really excited to bring our second guest of the week, Rosie Galligan, to the half-term squad chat. Thanks so much for joining. We will get into it in a bit, but I know you've had such a hectic day, so thank you so much for jumping on and squeezing a bit of time into our conversation, which is all around training preparing for training and for games, and why it's important, and maybe share around how years gone by that's changed for you, but also why you see the importance of it, because I think there's a lot of people out there that will resonate with the busyness that we all live. Our lives are so hectic nowadays. Like, how do we manage to actually prepare for training and for games, and why it's important? So I guess just to kick off there, for you, maybe explain that you work full-time still, and you're semi-professional, but also very heavily involved with the Red Roses. So yeah, a bit of a background to you, and then we'll kind of get into some of the questions.
Yeah, so at the minute I'm a full-time, I work full-time for Harlequins community. As you all know, it's half term at the minute, so for me it's my busiest time of the year. I'm in camps from 8:30 in the morning till 3:30. Today has probably been one of the busiest days because I've also had meetings. We've got a big game on the weekend against Saracens. So I finished at 3:30, jumped straight in the car from the stoop, and was straight into meetings, and then knew I had to speak to Bertha and get this video out, guys. So quickly put a couple, 20 minutes aside to be able to talk to you all, and just kind of show that although I'm a Harlequins rugby player, like, I know how it feels for all of you having to try and fit in school work, different commitments as well, and that it's all a bit of a balancing act, and just trying to find that balance and ways to manage it is really important. So for me, my day kind of started yesterday, and that started with packing my bag for camps today and also for training this evening. So I had to make sure that I had 2 tops, 2 pairs of shorts, more clothes in case it rained today, but it was lovely weather, which was nice. My boots, had to make sure that I had my food for lunchtime at camp, but also for dinner before training. My notebook, because I knew I had line-out meetings to come straight to, so had to do a bit of prep for that last night in order to make sure that I went into the meeting today organised and prepared so that I could talk about Saracens at the weekend. And yeah, staying hydrated and sane whilst doing all of that is sometimes a bit of a challenge, but yeah, I've managed to get here, managed to get a lot done, and it's just another day ticked off, really.
I guess if you didn't do like what seems so simple, like packing your bag, making sure you got the right food, staying hydrated, like the impact that could have had on today being such a busy day, and you've got another meeting, you've got weights to do, and then you've got the actual pitch session. So like, how do those things kind of make you feel, the fact that you've done all those small little things? Actually, how do they add up and make you feel and get through the sessions today?
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. I think one thing I've had to work on whilst trying to be a bit more of a professional athlete is my diet. I'm definitely someone that can go a long time without eating, and then get to the end of the night and want to eat like 3 or 4 cookies instead of having a nutritious meal. So for me, it's been really important since getting involved in Harlequins, is that, like, I want to make sure that I eat well, because I know that when I fuel myself properly throughout the day, not only does it help my training, but it also increases my mood. That I'm very reliant on food to make sure that I feel good. And I think feeling good in myself and not feeling like tired and lethargic going into training is so important. So yeah, for me, it's like making sure that I've had my protein shake today. I've got another protein shake to have in the meeting whilst listening to Amy and Brent talk for half hour, 45 minutes. So yeah, like, food for me and staying hydrated has been huge in order to keep me both physically and mentally like on it. And then other things like making sure I've got things for my injuries, so my thumb strapping, I've got to get my fingers strapped, my line out blocks as well, all those little things that you know that you need in order to perform at your best. You kind of have to think about the day before so that you're ready to go.
When do you think that you made a bit of a turn and recognize, personal responsibility about being prepared for training? We'll get onto games in a minute, but things like not expecting a physio to be standing there going, "Here you go, Rosie, here's your thumb tape." Like, what was it, you've had this massive acceleration in the last couple of years, getting back into the England fold and then going to the World Cup. Was it prior to that, or was it something you've always known?
I think it's something that I've always known, but it's not always something I've been consistent at. And I think consistency is key in little areas like this. Because if you can be consistent with it, then you know that you've controlled your controllables. If you let little things like that slip, then the stuff that you do on the pitch might be hindered. So knowing that if I've got strapped before a meeting, then I'll get out on time, then I can make sure that I've done all of my my prehab and made sure I've had a good warm up, and then I can go and train properly. But I'd say that definitely being involved in a full-time setup and being in England does make you feel like a little bit strict on yourself. I think because all you have to do is focus on rugby and you've got a schedule in front of you, it makes it that a bit easier to be accountable for your actions. But since being back at Quins from after the World Cup, like I've definitely noticed that potentially I had let myself slip a little bit and I was a couple of minutes late here and there, and actually that's not the standards that I want to hold myself to. So picking back up on those things and making sure that I'm like back to being like my 100%, like giving my 100% both on and off the field, that's definitely something that I've tried to be a bit better at. And especially, like I said, in this half-term week, it's definitely been a challenge. But
not the week you want Saracens to fall on, is it? When you've got such a hectic week. Just touching on like mental preparation then. So obviously there's a lot of meetings that go on. It's at the end of a really long day, or you talk about, because you're one of the line out leaders, you've got to do some preparation. Like, how do you get yourself mentally prepared? Most clubs, Tuesday will be a big session for teams and players. How do you mentally prepare yourself?
For me, it's about writing it down in my little notebook. So at the start of every season, I get a little notebook. One end of the side is previews and one is reviews. So in my preview, I obviously write down what to expect from the opposition, what line out moves they've done over the last couple of games in the season, if there's any key threats that we can try and manipulate and take out the game. And then obviously in the review side of things, it's talking about the game once it's happened. So I like to reflect on some of the things that I felt like I did well, things that I can work on, and then that again links back to my preview. So definitely writing things down again, so it keeps me accountable. So if I said that I want to do XYZ, can I then look back at it the next week and say, actually I ticked that off, I did that really well, or actually that's still a work on. Another thing for me mentally is making sure I get good sleep, a bit like food. If I sleep well, I then feel mentally switched on. So that's a big one. And then lastly is probably, I'd say a huddle. It kind of comes under my notebook as well. We use huddle as like a way of looking at other teams and oppositions and just making sure that I'm up to date with everything. And if you've done all the work before you get to the game or the match, same thing, game or match, then you've done it, like you've done everything you can, so you're in a good place both mentally and physically to go out and perform.
It gives you that confidence, doesn't it? Like, you've done your work, you prepared for it, you put it into training, so now actually you can relax and enjoy it. Because
like tonight for example, on my drive to here, there's been a couple of things put on huddle, so I've got about 15 minutes worth of videos to watch, and knowing that I'm kind of don't have time to watch them before training tonight, all of a sudden it does start playing on your mind that there's things you've missed. So I went to Amy Turner, our coach, and I just said, look, I've been at work all day, I may not know it all for tonight, but I know that I'll scrub up on it tomorrow when I've got the evening off, and I'll make sure I know it going into Thursday. So it's having that transparency as well when you're in full-time work and when you've got other commitments with your coaches, so that they can understand like you as a person and what's actually happening in your life. Because if you turn up and they think that you've not done anything all day, and then you don't know your stuff, that's when they get frustrated.
Yeah, totally. And the other thing you did as well, you put a message on the WhatsApp group, asking some others who would have the time to then relay it to you in a quick, succinct way. Like sharing that responsibility as well is pretty key and in a team sport. So relying on others to help prepare you as well is quite important.
Yeah, definitely. I think like a few weeks ago, I knew that we were being asked to look over a few things that came up a couple of weeks ago. So I just screenshotted the slides and put them on the group chat, so it's easier for people to get on the go. It's little things like that. Like at the end of the day, we're a team. We're trying to pick each other up. We're not trying to go against each other. So helping each other out is really important.
You can tell that you're in a rush today because you're speaking at a million miles an hour. I know we're pressed for time here, but just in terms of preparing for a game then, does much of what you do for training cross over, or there's some differences as well?
No, there's definitely a massive crossover, and like the things we do in training, we want to transfer into the game. So if there wasn't a massive crossover, then I think Brent would be a bit disappointed. But yeah, no, there's definitely things that we do at training which, well, for example, we go to a gymnastics factory every Thursday, and we were asked to do like prawn shaped stuff. We're asked to do like a forward roll and crab away and stuff like that. And at the time you're like, why are we doing this? Why are we acting like monkeys?
Everybody's
But
going to be wondering what a prawn shape is.
out of a ruck basically. But it's little things like that at the time. You think, why am I doing this? And then you then see it in a clip the week later where you've managed to get yourself out of a ruck quicker because you've prawned away from it. So it's little things like that that you don't really expect to see, like little skills that have started to come into the game. But also, like I said on the videos on Huddle, we've got so many different shapes and patterns of play and stuff, and they're definitely things that we do in training so that we then do it well on game day and we want to go and execute.
And what about like your personal routine before a game? Like, is there certain things that you need to make sure you do? Not superstitions, but just, you've already said about sleep and eat, or is it you like to look back over the lineouts just to double check? You like to have a little conversation with Brent or one of the team? Like, are there any little things there that you do week in, week out to prepare yourself better to be ready as soon as the whistle goes on the pitch?
So I used to think that I was really superstitious. And I remember going to Sainsbury school games and having to play Feed 'em to the Lions, go around and tap everybody once on the shoulder, and then do like this like big routine of like slapping myself. Went out in the final.
Can we bring that back? Can we bring that back? I want that back. See what
And I played horrendously. I was like, right, I'm never doing that again. I overpumped myself and it was horrendous. So since then, I've kind of just gone back to just being me on game day. I don't go out of my way to try and change anything. I'll get up, I'll have a coffee, I'll have my breakfast, again, making sure that I get my nutrition right on game day so that I feel energized. So normally I'll have like Weetabix at home and then travel to the stoop, and then we get pancakes on home days. So that for me is like good because I know that I'm going to definitely eat 2 hours before kickoff. So I like to do that, have a chat with the girls, get all of my stuff done. And then probably the only thing that I do, which is part of my routine, is I go out onto the pitch and I will go to every corner on the pitch of our side that we're warming up, and I'll run through my lineouts in my head. I like the idea of being able to like feel and vision what's going to happen on certain areas, and then again it's just fresh in my head of what lineouts I'm going to call first and where I want to be, and like what I like the movement patterns of what I'm going to do. So that's the only thing that I really do. And then when we get into team stuff, I just try and bring a bit of energy, but I think everyone's got their own way of doing things. I know a few other girls like to write things down at the start of games, like give themselves goals and targets. You've got girls that write on their wrists to give themselves, like I know Jade's actually got a tattoo of ETT, which is empty the tank. So little like reminders of what you want to do in the game, or like what you think your super strengths are and how you're going to bring them out in you.
Yeah, I think that's like really important message there about being really individual. I think we should say we're not encouraging any kids to go to their parents and say, I need this tattooed on me. But Jade always used to write, didn't she, constantly? And it's just become something that she is part of her. But I think,
and there's a lot well who write things down, like of people that are important to them. So I know a few people unfortunately lost friends in rugby teams and stuff, or parents or relatives, and a few people write that on their wrists, and I think that's really special. Like I've got a little 4-leaf clover for my nan and granddad, because they've always been a massive part of my rugby journey, and I just wanted them to always know that, I mean, they're still with me, but I've just always wanted them to know that, like, they're with me in every part of my journey, and because I can't always come to the rugby because they're getting a bit older now. But yeah, they're always with me, and that's my little reminder of, like, my family. Other people write things on their arms and stuff.
I think a big motivation for so many people is why they do it, and family's always so prevalent in that, and knowing not only through the good times that they're coming, but they're also picking you up during those bad times as well. I'm sure there's been times where you've been in a hole and you've looked at that and managed to pick yourself up again. But I think your point's so valid in that, making sure that you're not trying to be anybody else, you're not trying to follow anybody else. You've got to find your own routine and what really works for you. Now, different positions always provide different preparation as well. You look at like Amy Cocaine, she'll always go out, or most hookers will go out and do some extra throw-in. Kickers always go out a little bit earlier. So it's about finding what really works for you, but also reflecting on that as well, because, you know, if you're doing your jazzy dance and it doesn't quite work anymore, then you probably need to review that. But okay, just to wrap up then, because you've given us so much there, if you were to give 5 top tips of how to prepare yourself for training / games, what would they be?
Think about what you're going to do the night before. I'm not going to say anymore. You know what that means. Oh, this is tricky, Beth.
You've already said all of them, really.
You can help me. Think about what you can do before. Stay on top of the things that make you feel good.
Things around packing your bag.
Mentally and physically. Oh, you want more like normal things, like pack your bag. Okay, let me start again.
Round 2.
Pack your bag before, have a good breakfast, stay hydrated, use a notebook, do the extras.
Nailed it. Now, have you done all 5 of those today?
Not the extras just yet.
There's still time, I'm sure. Well, Rosie, honestly, it's been a pleasure just to have this quick chat with you and get an insight to somebody who's at the elite level, but still juggling so much, both internationally and domestically at club, as well as working full time. So thanks for sharing. So many people will be in the same boat as you, and those little tips will definitely help a lot of people. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.